What is up? Very, very interesting video today. I don't know what I'm going to put the title of this one as, but we're going to talk essentially about male birth control and what the options are for male birth control, the history of female birth control, and why we really don't have like a solid male birth control yet, right? So, really interesting stuff. So, let's start out with this, right? The reason why we have female birth control and not male birth control is because in females, you are trying to block just one egg a month, right? In males, you are trying to block 3.8 billion sperm a month, right? Think billions with a B, billions, like think Donald Trump, billions and billions, 3.8 billion sperm a month versus one egg, right? So 3.8 or one, right? So if you are a if you're a pharmacy group and you're trying to develop something to get, the best possible results, the quickest and the easiest way to do it, are you going to go and try to stop one a month or 3.8 billion, right? The answer is obvious. I mean, astronomically higher number for the men than the women. The other problem is testosterone is the biosynthesis pathway of testosterone, and also the cells where it's made are also are very, very closely intertwined with sperm production, right? So you can't really shut off sperm production unless you want to effectively make a man a woman. Now, in some cases, you still have a little bit of fertilization at that point, even at that case, right? So obviously testosterone is what makes a man, right? That's what develops your male characteristics. Obviously your DHT receptors on your face is what causes your facial hair to grow in. DHT receptors on your scalp obviously cause, male pattern baldness if you have a significant amount of them and you have a high, elevated level of testosterone for a significant period of time, et cetera, et cetera. But it causes the deeper voice. It causes, which I swear I never got, it causes muscular growth, which again, I'm still hoping for puberty. But at any rate, obviously testosterone is very closely related to, men and like the characteristics of men. Like it is the basis of men. It's the basis of male endocrinology, right? So obviously testosterone super super intertwined and interrelated with sperm production. So it's really really hard to shut off sperm production and still keep a man, right? And even in some cases, you can still have some sperm cells. It's a crazy story, but anyways, as far as the general person is concerned, we have female birth control. We have female birth control. Really, the origin of it was they went into areas that were like U.S. territories, but outside the main U.S., and that's where they did a lot of their like super inhumane testing. You can look it up; it's crazy. The origins of how female birth control was actually tested on people. It was fairly inhumane. They were testing the level of like when do people get pregnant? When do people not get pregnant? When are people no longer able to ever get pregnant if they take this dosage? Like it was kind of crazy. It's kind of jacked up. So I would recommend that you look up the history of women's birth control. It's crazy. But at any rate, I digress. So we're talking about male birth control. So really, what are the options for male birth control? Well, we can't really stop the sperm from working. I mean, that makes a man. Actually, they did a study on this. I almost forgot about this. They did a study, and they tried to stop. They essentially gave a man the proper hormones and all that stuff. That's really deep into chemistry. But what they did is they basically tried to shut down a man's natural testosterone production completely, and subsequently shut down the sperm production, or at least they thought they could. And they would subsequently inject 500 milligrams of exogenous testosterone into these same males that they, shut down the sperm production and they shut down the testosterone production in, right? So they've effectively shut down the testosterone production, and then they give them exogenous testosterone. Now, obviously, it's not made by those testes, so it's being given exogenously. So it's not like it's going to revamp the fertilization process for males and sperm. That's not really how that works, right? If you have exogenous test and it comes in, that doesn't mean that you like magically get more fertility and more fertility is made, because exogenous test is being made another way. So you don't have the feedback loop saying from the LH and all that stuff coming down, and the luteinizing hormone and the follicle stimulating hormone coming down from the pituitary down to the testes saying, hey, create more sperm and create more testosterone. It's all brought in. So basically your nuts just like go on vacation, right? So that's basically how it works. So anyways, I digress again. So they did this study, right? And they shut off their natural sperm production, shut off their natural testosterone production, and they gave them exogenous testosterone. So in theory, these guys are like infertile, but they're still guys because they still have this exogenous testosterone, right? And so they were about 60% successful. Everyone was having unprotected sex with their spouses, and roughly out of the 100, roughly 60% got their spouses pregnant, which is crazy. And this was done in another area aside from the U.S., but it's crazy to realize that that was only 60% effective. For reference, the pull-out method is deemed to be in a lot of studies and a lot of literature. That's deemed to be about 80% effective. Anywhere from it depends on what study you look at, but the large consensus is 60 to 80% effective for the pull-out method, right? So that's almost as successful as this practice is, right? So it's crazy. So you testosterone and sperm is like go like hand in hand, and you can't really get rid of one without getting rid of the other, right? So you would have to subsequently make a man not a man anymore. Now you can do that through certain hormones and certain therapies, and that's a whole different rabbit hole to go down for another video. But just today, what are the options for male birth control? Okay, so there's a couple options that you have, right? Number one, you can get a vasectomy, right? Then that is where they take the ectomy, pull out part of the vas deferens tube, right? That carries the sperm from the testy up through and into the ejaculatory process, which I can't really, demonstrate for you too well, because we are on YouTube and I would definitely get banned. So, at any rate, that was a joke. At any rate, so what they do is they cut that tube, right? And then they cauterize those two ends so they can't grow back together very easily. Now, sometimes these are accidentally reversed and the body just grows them back together. It does happen. But typically that's like a 1 in 1,000 chance, right? I mean, it's very, very low that that will actually happen. So, you can possibly get a vasectomy. The only problem with this is that ev the longer that you go with the vasectomy, the less likelihood that you have to be able to repair, that tube. If you want to have a reversal of a vasectomy and have kids again, after 3 to 5 years, the majority of the studies say that that success rate of trying to successfully reverse your vasectomy drops off by about 50%, okay? And after about a decade, most people won't even touch you because over 90% of those cases, 90% of the people who attempt to get a reversal of their vasectomy after 10 years are not successful, right? So let's say if you are basically what this means is if you're 20, you get a vasectomy, and your doc somehow lets you get a vasectomy at 20 years old, and then you find love of your life at 30, and you want to have kids. There's about a 9 out of 10 chance, there's over 90% chance that you're not going to be able to reverse that vasectomy. Now, there are ways to, do in vitro fertilization. That's a whole different process. But as far as organically creating children and procreating, that is going to be extremely tough for you, right? So, vasectomy is a very, very risky procedure, but it is one that can be done. The second option is condoms. Condoms are condoms. You can be can be having the greatest time of their life, and you're like, really, because I can't feel anything. I don't know what's going on, right? So I get there's a frustration with condoms, but condoms are an option, and condoms are over 99% effective. Also against stopping STDs. So I would strongly, strongly recommend that you use condoms and just deal with it. That's going to be about your best option. There are things in clinical trial that they're trying to look at and saying, hey, if we put something like a gel inside of that vas deferens tube, which carries up the sperm, if we say block it, right? If we block it, then it's possible that it would work like a vasectomy, but then in theory, you could just pull the gel out and you could have kids and it wouldn't be a problem, right? Now, do we actually know if this works? Could it cause cancer? Could the sperm somehow reach past the gel? There's all of this stuff. And this is in phase 1 of clinical trials right now. So go ahead and look it up if you want to try to get in one of those studies. Give it your best shot. But we don't even know if this is something that is truly successful right now. And it's probably going to be another couple of years at least before that gets offered to, the general majority of society and general population, right? So, Unfortunately, the only two options for men right now at this point in time are vasectomies and condoms. Obviously, you could just go abstinent, and I will say, the pull-out method is only 60 to 80% effective, so you're really gambling the dice there. Do not recommend that you do that at all. And I will say, female contraceptive is not healthy, honestly. In a lot of cases, is not healthy, right? By the way, this isn't a recommended thing, but I did just think about this. There is an anabolic steroid. I know everyone probably just lost their mind. Ryan, anabolics, you can't do that. Well, okay, just hear me out. Anabolic steroids, right? So women's birth control is actually nandrolone. It is a it's essentially been like modified for oral ingestion, and it is nandrolone, which is also DECA. It's an anabolic steroid. And what that does is that does successfully shut down reproductive properties, right? Because it has a very, very high affinity for the androgen, for the AR receptors, kind of like RID 140, but that's a whole different puzzle. So, anyways, so nandrolone could be something if you wanted to do like a base of exogenous testosterone and then you wanted to do nandrolone on top of it, that would essentially render you pretty much infertile. But also, that's likely very illegal. And I know in a lot of states, they won't even prescribe you anabolics unless you have diagnosed pituitary dwarfism. And they do a lot of, labs and panels to see if that's actually something that you have. So, that's not really an option for a lot of people unless you were hoping to go an illicit route. So, and I wouldn't recommend that you stay on that stuff for a long period of time because that can really jack up your endocrinology as well. So, in terms of long term sustainable birth control, what you can do, obviously, for men is pretty much just condoms. And for women, what you can do, and I have a lot of videos on this, take something like the copper IUD, which would likely have the lowest effect on your endocrinology and the lowest effect on your sexual reproductive system, and then also supplement with something like DHEA or dihydroepiandrosterone. And this can be bought in like a capsule at CVS, at Walgreens, your general convenience store, what have you. And so what they can do there, what that does is that is a precursor to testosterone, the women's uh, biosynthesis of testosterone pathway. And so what happens is it allows you to recover women that are on like hormonal birth control. It can allow them to recover in most cases almost to baseline testosterone because women do need testosterone. And it's something that's a relatively viable option. So I did just think about that too. But to wrap up the video, for the most part, women's birth control is the only thing we have available. For men, your birth control is going to be either vasectomies or condoms. That is the conclusion of the video. I hope you guys have a great day.